Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Hasbro has decided that it's time for the Monopoly game that has been around for over 80 years to get woke. And in this new woke version of Monopoly called Ms.Monopoly, the game, which was about finance and building wealth, is now focused on social justice issues like addressing the so-called gender pay gap. And according to the rules of the new Ms.Monopoly game, the game is supposed to address the gender pay gap by paying women more than men. So, in the rules of this game, the bank is supposed to give the female players $1,900 and $1,500 to start, and every time they pass go, a woman is paid $240 and a man is paid $200. Now, according to the woke rule makers of this game, this is supposed to make things equal because of the alleged gender pay gap. But what makes this game completely illogical is the fact that if this game has the equal amount of money, then this game is eventually going to wind up with the bank going bankrupt, because if you are paying a woman more than a man, eventually the bank is not going to have enough money to go around for all of the players. And in addition to making up these rules to deal with this alleged gender pay gap, this game, instead of having wealth-based properties, has decided to change that to make this properties based on innovations made by women like chocolate chip cookies, bulletproof vests, solar heating, and ladies' modern shapewear. Things that really don't build up long-term wealth the way the original properties did, like your Boardwalk, your Park Place, your Baltic Avenue, your Venator Avenue. Those avenues were places where people could put houses and hotels on, and that tangible real estate could build wealth over time, because as players advanced on the game, they would have to pay rent to the owner of that property or the player who owned that property, and they would have to, if that property had hotels on it, they would have to pay more money if that property had hotels than if it had houses. But these properties that these people in this woke Ms.Monopoly game are talking about, these are assets that have short-term value and don't generate long-term wealth like things like real estate, railroads, and electric companies do. Now, those economic assets, when they are around, they generate wealth because these are fixed tangible assets that have an essential value. And the creators of the original Monopoly game back in the 1930s, they understood economics, they understood business, and they understood the value of those avenues and those properties, because they understood that real estate generated real wealth, and they also understood that utilities like the electric company, the waterworks, the railroads, all of these assets are important for building a tangible economic system. But this Ms.Monopoly game wants us to believe that these goods out here and services have the same value as things that are needed for trade and commerce, and that's where the woke game's logic falls completely apart. If you have people investing in things like chocolate chip cookie companies, bulletproof vests, solar heating, and ladies' modern shapewear, this stuff does not build long-term value, nor does it build long-term wealth. Things like modern shapewear, these things change over time, and these brands, like these companies that make these clothes, they usually wind up declining in value over time because the demand for a certain brand of product usually winds up declining over time. And things like bulletproof vests, they are items that only have a 1 or 2 time use if they get damaged. And companies like chocolate chip cookies, these companies, they come and go every day. So the woke people, they're changing the game to try to appeal to things that appeal to females, not understanding that this is something that doesn't have any real value in a society where you have trade and commerce going on. These type of businesses, they don't have the longevity of having real estate properties, utilities, and railroads, economic assets that build wealth over time. But according to the Ms.Monopoly game, this stuff has higher value, and if you go out here and you pay the women more for buying these kinds of properties, it's going to lead to them becoming richer. And that's where, again, this game's logic falls completely apart, because if you are paying the women more and they are buying properties and economic assets that have declining value, then the entire economic system that the game is based on is going to completely collapse. And that's where the big hole in this plot point for this Ms.Monopoly game and the rules of this Ms.Monopoly game just fall into a black hole, because you're sitting there, you're paying women more for the same job a man does, and you don't see the sexism going on as related to that. Now, the woke feminists, they will sit there and say, oh, a woman is paid 70 cents for every dollar a man makes, but that whole argument fell completely apart because we had an Equal Pay Act since the 1960s, so no company in the United States can pay a woman less than a man, because we've had this Equal Pay Act for over 50 years. So the whole argument that women are having some sort of wage gap that this Ms.Monopoly game wants to push as part of its rules, that argument falls completely apart, because we've had equal pay in this country since the late 1960s. However, most American women, they will sit there and say that they are underpaid when they're paid the same as men. Moreover, when we take into consideration the other revenue streams that many of these women have, they actually get paid more than men overall, because in addition to a woman's paycheck, she gets revenue from 2 other revenue streams, whether it be a boyfriend or a husband, child support from an ex-spouse, or money that her parents give her, or money that she gets from dates. Women get more money than men oftentimes from these non-taxed revenue streams than she would get if she just worked on her own like a man. So usually most women are well taken care of. So they're sitting there talking about wage gaps and all of these other issues and trying to make it a narrative for Ms.Monopoly. But when I look at Ms.Monopoly, I don't see a game that makes any logical sense. Now, the original Monopoly was based on capitalism, but when I look at Ms.Monopoly, it's more of a game based on socialism. And the reason why I believe that Ms.Monopoly is based on socialism is because it's about so-called making things equal, but then making it unequal because you want to penalize the man for being a man, and you want to pay the woman more because she's just a woman. And again, that's sexist, but according to the feminists, this is equal, but it just shows how unequal your woke mind is thinking and the woke creators of this game are. And I believe if people play this game, they will soon see how illogical and how ridiculous this game is for its rules, talking about wage gaps and all of this and paying women more. Because when we get to the real world and we see things like a recent coffee shop where feminists were going to make men pay a so-called man tax, what happened in the case of that coffee shop was men chose not to patronize that store, and that business which charged the man tax, went out of business, and that's what happens in a free market economy. And what I see happening in a free market economy to the Ms.Monopoly game is that this game is not going to last long in the free market, because after people play this woke game and see that the woke game is going to lead to them going broke and losing, they're not going to have an incentive to play Ms.Monopoly, because Ms.Monopoly is going to lead to all the players in the game winding up in poverty, and that's going to lead to more men looking to go out here and play Mr. Monopoly, because Mr. Monopoly is a game where they can actually make profits from wealth building assets and deal with wealth building materials and learn about real economics, not economics based on a failed service sector economy designed to appease and please women, but deal with an economy that winds up servicing everyone equally. Because the original Monopoly game, it was a game where everybody had to follow the same rules, whether they be a man or a woman. Everybody got a certain amount of money in the beginning from the bank. Everybody had to get $200 once they passed go, and everybody had to follow the same rules. So the original Monopoly game, it was always a fair and balanced game, and it was about people winning the game based on their ability to know how business worked. But this Ms.Monopoly game is about rigging the game so that women can win, but at the end of the day, everybody loses, because when people get woke, all the economy does is go broke. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, which feature balanced heroines like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the Spinsterella trilogy, and the Recipe for Success, a story which presents a positive story of a black woman in business, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.